Hey, listen up. Yeah, we here and we locked in. Let's keep it going all the way to the top 10. We fear the turtles, so it's no other option. Fred and Ryan, just watch them. Let's take it to the max. It's the Shell and Tell. They come with all the facts. It's the Shell and Tell. Let's take it to the max. It's the Shell and Tell. They come with all the facts. It's the Shell and Tell.
Welcome back to another episode of Shell and Tell. Your boys Ahmed and Ryan back when one very disappointing season ends, maybe a better one begins. I don't know. I don't like to be that guy at Maryland, but basketball looks better than it's been in a long time.
Yeah, no, the basketball team obviously getting a chance to split their Big Ten games last week, but football obviously with the transfer portal in full swing now, but on outgoing and incoming attrition and additions, in addition to landing the top prospect in the 2026 class over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be mad at the recruiting. It was a scary national recruiting day as our big offensive lineman took forever and a day to put his name down, and every Maryland fan was waiting for the shoe to drop for our class to fall deep out of the top 30 with a big guy like that waiting on board. But everybody signed, and after a season like that, that's all you can ask for. I mean, anybody looking for a signing day flip present on top of that, just you're asking for far too much after a 4-win season.
Yeah, and I think Loxy kind of talked about it, but this is kind of a cycle where it's a little bit different. There's just kind of like the business side aspect of it. So really the flips and whatnot, there are a couple of cases. Obviously, Matt Alton, Penn State signee. He was a guy that kind of late summer, early fall was someone to look at. Romero Eisen from Milford Mill, who ultimately signed with USC, but was entertaining Georgia, Penn State, in addition to Maryland. But for the most part, a lot of these guys really locked in, and like you said, to go 4-8, especially in year 6, obviously the fan concerns were loud, and a lot of it was understandable. But for this 2025 class. And I've been consistent about it from really the start of the cycle till signing. I thought that this had a chance to be Mike Loxley's most complete, most deep class, the deepest class since he's been head coach at Maryland. And with that signed class, I believe that's the case. But really throughout the fall, I thought this class did a really good job of really never wavering. They were always kind of locked in. Obviously much has been made of Malik Washington. Michigan showing a little bit of interest. Penn State was a school that reached out, and I was told that Malik did flat out say no to that interest. But again, Nasir Taylor, Penn State was kind of lurking with him as well. A couple of guys had Indiana lurking, but like you said, to be able to sign this class to consensus, top 35 class, I believe On3 had him at the lowest at 34th, but nonetheless, and getting 11 of these guys in here in January, I thought this was a very, very good cycle for Maryland.
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, we got a long way to go. That was a great signing class. We did free grandma. Shout out to starting that whole movement. It's kind of cool how the players grabbed onto that and have continued it. We'll see how long it goes because, 2026 is using hashtag free grandma for now. So maybe we just forever free grandma and she stays locked in a cage.
Yeah, I don't think Serp recruiting. I think he was the one that started that trend. I don't think we set up rules, and I don't know, what was Grandma's first meal when she got out the cage. I don't think we established a lot of this stuff. But
when he stole that meme and put it up there, I don't think he had any idea it would get this big.
He does a really good job running, doing a good job just kind of leading Maryland fans and kind of getting guys engaged on social media. But yeah, like you said, I thought that really caught on, and to see also the program kind of latch onto it as well. Malik Washington, the night of that first signing day when he signed, he was at the basketball game alongside JT Taggart, Jaden Ships, a couple others. Sidney Stewart was also there, but they put him on the Jumbotron, and they put him as the guy that freed Grandma. So once he saw that description, he just started belted out laughing, got up, started getting the crowd up out of their seats and whatnot. So just kind of cool, like you said, to see everyone embrace it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, reminds me of this outgoing class when Ruben was just kind of the very forefront of the class and was the man, stirring beating the drum for that recruiting class that has, fortunately, it ended very poorly with this 4-win season and losing the last 6. But really, if this team turns around, if Loxley makes it here at Maryland, the history books will read that recruiting class changed the future of this program. I mean, 3 bowl wins in 3 years was still under their watch, no matter how bad it ended.
Yeah, and again, I know fans, say, "Oh, it's a whatever bowl and whatnot."
Still
I've said
different
it,
than Maryland's had.
and I've said it before. When I was at Maryland, my 4 years, we never saw a bowl game, never saw an NCAA tournament appearance. So,
Yeah,
just
and I had a
just
blast at
grateful.
both of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was it was fun. So, I mean, hopefully get the chance to extend the season again next year.
Yeah, that'd be great. It all starts in the offseason. Like you said, we had our recruiting day went well today. This was Monday that we're recording this, was the very first day of the transfer portal. Transfer portal hasn't hit us so hard yet. Of course, it's just the beginning. Who knows what is to come? But as of right now, I guess Brandon Jacobs is probably the biggest name to hit the portal other than the NFL departure of Jordan Phillips. Those were the 2 kind of shocking ones for me so far.
Yeah, Kyle Long, Monday evening, he became the first guy to kind of announce, Leron Husbands, Cam Edge, Michael Mormon, Zeke Abbott, Perry Fisher, Lionel Whitaker, all these guys have announced their entry to hit the portal. And like you said, Brandon Jacob, he's a guy that really stings, especially when you look at that safety room, losing both Dante Trader and Glenn Miller, excuse me. Both those guys, that's plenty of experience right there. You obviously got a chance to see Levain Scruggs really step in. Really in 2024, probably one of the I would say bright spots on defense. But getting a guy like Brandon Jacob to kind of come back and kind of shore up the depth a little bit. Safety is probably a concern for Maryland now going into this transfer portal season. But like you said, a lot of these guys, Cam Edge, Michael Mormon, Leron Husbands, Brendan Segovia, all these guys announced their intention to enter the transfer portal mid-season, left the program and whatnot. But Perry Fisher, he was another guy that he obviously was able to build on his bowl performance last year against Auburn. Came to Maryland and was kind of looked at as maybe the top guy in that cornerback room. But just felt like it never really came together. So I think kind of mentioned it for subscribers, but that cornerback room is secondary, especially. But that cornerback room is expected to see a lot of turnover this offseason.
Yeah, what I see most about these names is that I would have been more upset to see them go last year than I am this year. I'm not saying they're not losses, but we expected more from this season from Whitaker. We expected more this season from Fisher. We expected more this season from Long. And then of course Leron Husbands was right there with the young tight end class, so we didn't really know who was going to pop. Preston Howard has gotten more of the edge over Husbands in that world. So last year, all these names really hurt my feelings, which means they're good players. And they will find, a productive place in college football. But I don't think our hill is much higher to climb than it already was. We already had a big gap. And the only one that really that may have made the gap bigger is Brandon Jacobs, because you did think that maybe he could step into that safety room. We already had so many corners we had to bring in from the transfer portal that now we have even more DBs to go out there and grab.
Yeah, and again, Perry Fisher, I think you could just obviously kind of make the argument just kind of with the experience. You look at Perry, he's still a little bit newer to the position. Obviously played quarterback in high school, played cornerback, but it was still a little bit new to him then. But he came in with the intention of playing wide receiver, flipped to the defensive side of the ball, so was always kind of viewed as kind of a high upside guy that really started to show flashes. Really, like I said, through bowl game into spring ball, but that secondary is a big one. But again, I think that this was kind of expected. The defensive side of the ball. I mean, you're kind of looking arguably outside of the inside linebacker room. Frankly, just about everything is a need for Maryland this offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Perry Fisher's story kind of reminds me a little bit of Isaiah Hazel. Just always, in theory, is putting together but more than was there, and it was always the flipping, but different positions and everything. So hopefully he figures it out. But yeah, it's a big hill to climb. But my connections inside the Terps say that Locks is flush with cash and ready to shop on the transfer portal. So I hope they're right. It seemed a very confident statement from someone in the know inside the program about that, and I can't wait to see it happen. I was hoping it would happen today, but not yet. as of
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. I mean, obviously, like you said, there'll be a lot of portal needs for Maryland. I've kind of mentioned, the NIL standing. There's been the confidence kind of about where Maryland stands back to, really May, June when official visits started up. Obviously, that's picked up with revenue sharing as well. That's kind of been able to help Maryland where they're able to just have more money to be able to spend. And obviously, when we go into an off season, like we said, with needs at cornerback, offensive line, receiver, defensive line. Loxy mentioned safety on the National Signing Day presser. I also mentioned blocking and tight end, which was something that was kind of, talked about last offseason as well. AJ Szymanski was kind of looked at as a guy that could possibly, be the one to kind of fill that void, fill that C area blocking for Maryland. So, I think, like you said, having cash, especially in the portal era, is what you need. And there's definitely been a sentiment where they expect to be aggressive this offseason.
So the most shocking one was the NFL departure for me. Jordan Phillips saying that he's going to the NFL draft. I get it. I know that he looks like an NFL player. He's built like an NFL player. Just like we had talked about this year already, like they hyped him up like he was going to be the shining star NFL player on the defensive line, and I just never saw it. Like he wasn't the most productive member on this defensive line, which wasn't a good defensive line. So to leave early to the NFL just kind of leaves my head shaking. I'm sure he knows more than I do. I'm sure that he got better advice than I have, but I just didn't see this one coming.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I've had a couple people say that, I think that was kind of expected. I think there was a slight window where there was a chance that he could have probably come back, but I also think, really going into this off season, he was really working with that mindset, where he could, potentially with a breakout season or with a productive season, be able to really step up and kind of be that NFL draft prospect that a lot of people talked about. Again, going into this off season, again, you talk to a lot of people. There are very few people who really look at Jordan Phillips and say that there was someone who was outworking him, whether it was kind of weight room or just reps on the field inside Jones Hill House. But again, I think finishing with 29 tackles, one tackle for a loss. I think you expect a little bit more from
Yeah,
that,
the
but
production, the
yeah, but
productive season was what we were looking at in the middle before the NFL,
yeah,
and it didn't
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I think, kind of coupled, kind of with some flashes in 2024 and, going into this season, he was viewed as, one of the most athletic defensive linemen in the country in college football. I believe Bruce Feldman included him in his annual 101 freaks list and whatnot. So I think kind of all of that and kind of being able to still be a little bit young, kind of in his mind makes it attractive. But
Yeah, and athletically, he's going to show up. And honestly, he's probably been training for the combine more than he's been training for football this year. Might be part of why the production lacked. And there's always going to be that coach that sees the raw talent and thinks they can fix him and become the biggest, baddest thing that there ever was. So
yeah,
I mean, he'll get a good opportunity. But it was, to me, it was just off my radar because I'm not him, and all I was looking at is like NFL level production, and that didn't exist this year.
yeah, I think that's kind of fair. There are times, obviously, like we've talked about on the show. The defensive line. There were times this year where it felt like it was a little bit disappointing, where you expected that front seven to really be dominant, and even on non-conference play, the run defense, they it was a little bit concerning at times. And again, Jordan Phillips, he's a guy, he plays a position where you don't get a lot of these stats. So again, you
Yeah,
kind of
if he's doubled
definitely,
every play, it
yeah,
just is what it is. So and that could have
definitely
very
true,
well been
but
it.
definitely true. But I definitely, think that that the disappointment is understood. I just didn't really sound like when it all came down to it, that he was too open about changing his mind.
Well, just the idiot's take on the portal. I am seeing a few very large names, 4 and 5 star and big time recruits that had us in their top 2, 3, 4 that are back in the portal. Are we back in the mix with anybody that you can think of off the top head? Antonio Gates Jr. I saw was transferring out of Michigan State. I know we were in, I think his final 2, right? It was
Yeah,
somewhere really close.
yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys, obviously Deshaun Womack is a guy that, he's kind of been mentioned. And I could see Maryland going after him. Mike Williams, he started at Rock Creek and ended up over at Flowers. He transferred out of Florida. I don't see Maryland going after him. I've heard Virginia Tech could be a school in the mix there if he does land Power 4. We'll kind of be, we'll see how that ultimately materializes. But like you said, Kobe Prentice, we'll see about that. But again, I think it's something that fans kind of overlook. The high school, the stats and whatnot. Sure, the connections are always there, but you gotta value production. When Maryland's, you're looking at corner, offensive line, wide receiver. You need proven guys. So there are definitely guys. Sam Green. He's another guy from USC who he has drawn a couple of looks, but he doesn't really fit what Maryland does defensively. And that was kind of the same out of high school, same out of the portal. So the connections sometimes out of high school don't always correlate to portal interests and whatnot. So, but again, we'll see. This is, like we said, this is only day one. Portal's open for another 2 weeks or so.
More out to come, more in to come. Well,
Yeah,
definitely more in to come. We're in real bad shape if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think. Well, I definitely think we should expect more names to depart. I think the skilled positions. We'll see kind of what happens at tight end. I wouldn't expect. Maybe we'll see an answer by Wednesday or so. Some clarity on kind of what happens there. Wide receiver, cornerback, quarterback as well. All possible departure candidates as well. Roman Hemby. We'll see. He's a guy that was announced on senior day. We'll see if he's finished with his Maryland career as well. But again, I think with incoming, we'll start to see some guys probably come in this weekend.
Very good. Very good. Well, we will see. Let's hope that flush with cash really gets us back where we need to be. With the whole profit sharing, I mean, everybody's flush with cash. So I don't know if it's great timing to be flush with cash, but hopefully we have the better sales pitch.
Yeah, but again, you're still looking at the same type of traits, the same evaluation. You're obviously everyone's looking for money in the portal, but you kind of want the guys for the right reason, making sure that that they're it's not just about the money. Keep making sure that the locker room is staying in mind, the team culture and whatnot. So all those things are still valued. Those are things that are evaluated and prioritized in high school recruiting as well. So. Again, I definitely, like we said, I expect Maryland to be aggressive. A lot of needs there, but again, day one, lot to play out still. But I will say that I've heard of a couple group of five, players, who have thought about Power Four interests and whatnot, making that jump, and a couple of them, at these smaller schools, being able to enjoy the revenue sharing now. Some of these schools are able to kind of compensate some of these bigger players and convince them, hey, maybe you don't need to take that chance at a Power Four. You can still be that featured guy at the G5 level, and stick it out for another year, and build your NFL draft profile there. So I think that's kind of also been an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that definitely changes a lot. With they have less, profit to share, but there's still more money than they had last year to try to entice few they have to stay by.
Yeah, I mean, some of these schools, they just don't. They didn't have any funding before, so a little bit helps.
Well, I just want to go out there, thank all the seniors. Like we already said, they were a big part of turning this thing around for the first 3 years of their life here. Also, big shout out to Brendan Segovia, our first commitment on Shell and Tell by accident, but I'll take it. So that was a cool memory I always have with him. Hope he lands somewhere cool, and gets to show off that leg of his. Outside of that, I don't have really many personal relationships with any of these guys. Cam Edge was always a good guy whenever I did talk to him in person. But he definitely was buried and needed to go find somewhere to show off.
Yeah, I'm happy for a lot of these guys. Cam Edge, Leron Husbands, Brandon Jacob, Lionel Whitaker. A lot of these guys, Michael Mormon. The Wise coaches spoke so highly of him when he was in high school. So yeah, a lot of these guys. Leron Husbands, he's a guy. He battled injuries a lot. Ended up playing in 6 out of the 8 games before he departed the program. So glad to see that he's healthy and kind of able to continue his football career. But yeah, like we said, I expect to see some more names kind of materializing from the incoming, and definitely over the next 48, 72 hours.
Well, I guess, is that it for football? We moving on to round ball?
I think we missed a big one. Maryland got the number 1 player in the country in the 2026 class.
Oh, yeah, we did kind of graze over that. I know you mentioned it, but we did not go very deep into what that means for this program. That's never happened at the University of Maryland. We've never had the number 1 overall player. It'll be interesting to see how 247 makes him a 4-star now that he's at Maryland, when to drop him that far. I don't know. It's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, I think obviously, chance for Zion, that's a big time guy for him. Like we said, number one prospect in the country. That hasn't happened at Maryland. Obviously, you've been able to get some high profile guys. Stephon Diggs obviously being kind of the face of that stay home movement, and still rings true 15, 20 years later. But for Zion, I think that his recruitment for Maryland really, is kind of just a win in itself. You look back in the spring, really, he came back for spring practice. Um, you know, I could say it just could have gone better. But again, yeah, it just could have gone better. But then again,
Wait, I'm gonna have to hear that story whether it's on or off air.
but again, he was a guy that he noted that he had a lot of interest. His interest in staying close to home just really wasn't there. So it took him some convincing. But again, with the addition of Azar Abdul-Rahim coming on board, that was big chip in his favor. Being able to reel in this local talent, obviously for Zion. When he was at Joppatown, he was a big target for Maryland. Transferring to St. Francis kind of only amplified those the charge for Maryland. And I distinctly remember when he made the move to St. Francis, I was like, oh, that probably helps. And I talked to someone, and they said he's not interested in Maryland. And then kind of got back to me that said, hey, we're gonna keep trying. So again, I think when you look back at kind of the turning point, it was that USC game, coming obviously for the homecoming win, and just kind of being able to see the good side of Maryland football, and kind of that really kind of changed his perspective a little bit. And he also noted, the chance to be an impact edge rusher. That's a position that has been addressed under the Loxley era, but getting a dominant impact guy, it's been quite some time where Maryland has been able to kind of see that. So he recognizes that being an impact, being the face of the class, being a big piece of the program. I think that those are all traits that he really cares about. The NIL at one point was considered way too steep for him. And, that sounds like, it sounds like those are kind of been concerned. And like you said, flush with cash, like you said, Maryland's just able to be more competitive in that space now. But again, I think just kind of for Ely, him reconsidering Maryland, his potential impact, all kind of chips in Maryland's favor. And again, I kind of posted it for subscribers, but it sounded like privately over this last week or so, he was kind of closing in on it. Initially, he was planning on announcing his commitment this upcoming week. With heard Friday was probably a target date, but opted to make a surprise commitment on Saturday, and he will be back on campus on Friday alongside Manny Nacho, the other 5-star tackle from Georgetown Prep.
Yeah, it's all big names he's talking to so far in the short amount of time that he has been committed to the Terps. It has been very Rubenesque, very like tagging other players, y'all staying home too, that kind of stuff, kind of drumming up interest. If he gets a few more fish to hook with him early, I like our chances more of having him stay in the fold, because if he can really keep the moving with him, then why not stick it out?
Yeah, and I think obviously, like you said, just kind of being able to kind of be that face. He just watched Malik Washington, Gilchrist, but those guys, Messiah Delhomme, Zymir Smith, Bryce Jenkins, a lot of these guys, Iverson Howard, a lot of these guys who are local guys who are, can kind of be big pieces at Maryland.
And be a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of another recruit at Ohio State, another recruit at Oregon.
and Zion recognizes that just it's the timing of it for sure. I think that a lot of people kind of look at that and analyze it. Is it too soon? And obviously everyone's reached out.
You're always nervous at this point.
All the replies, and it's completely valid. You still have a complete year until he has to sign. So obviously, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, all schools to kind of watch moving forward with him. But right now, Ely is kind of looking to be that big piece in Maryland's class. He has a lot of people in his corner that are, a lot very pro Maryland. They want to see their guys suit up for Maryland. And I think that also played a big role in, Maryland being able to land some of these guys in the 2025 cycle. But again, they're the reasons that Ely, and it's, from Ely himself and from people around him, the reason that Ely is committing to Maryland, you could definitely make the very easy argument that they're for the right reasons. Sweating it out, sure.
Yeah. But that's a good thing. That's fun.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have, to be worried about the number one player. I mean, you're talking about somebody ranked this high. You're talking about like Yannick Ngakwe floor and Sean Merriman ceiling. Like, I mean, these are huge like potentials
Yeah,
you're
I
discussing.
mean, yeah,
Like,
that's it. 6'3", 220 pounds. I mean, he was a mismatch at Joppatown, and at St. Francis, he really got a chance to kind of add to his repertoire a little bit. Get into his bag for the pass rush moves. And I think you got a chance to see flashes of it. But frankly, his athleticism for his size is kind of what makes him such an impact player. Even in a camp setting, it was hard for him to really to miss him. And obviously long way to go, but he should be able to enroll early. So that only adds fuel to the fire.
so Friday, it's a basketball game he's coming down to, or what's he coming down for
No,
Friday?
just
Just
coming down
in with the
for,
team.
yeah, yeah. I talked to Manny, Saturday afternoon. And yeah, by Monday evening, from Monday afternoon, he already had the visit locked in. So, chance, obviously, like I said, wouldn't be surprised if we see some portal visitors this weekend as well. But getting these high school guys maintaining their local momentum. I posted on the site 10 names to know in the 2026 class. A lot of guys. Keem Satterwhite. Didn't mention Kari Adams because we'll kind of see Penn State Notre Dame generated a lot of buzz with him. But there's a lot of homegrown talent and the elite talent in the backyard in 2026. So getting a guy like Ely and Big Manny, obviously, two big building blocks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking from one hometown hero that the NIL brought us to another. I mean, you got to move over to the basketball and seeing Mr. Derek Queen being all he's supposed to be. This has been a very fun season to be a Maryland basketball fan.
Yeah, just reeled in his second consecutive week of the Big Ten Freshman of the Week, and for good reason. That he reeled in his third and fourth career double double. He's kind of even on the road, obviously in a loss at Purdue, but he's just kind of been as advertised. Even showing off a little bit of his outside shooting, knocking down his first two threes there on the road. So again, I think he's kind of was always viewed as kind of that impact piece when he signed with Merrill, when he was being pursued by obviously Willard, Coach Cox, and the full staff. But I think he's lived up to the billing and then some.
Yeah, the hometown hero thing at Maryland is real, already on the hardwood. We're hoping to build it in the football stadium with some of the guys we've already been talking about. But the guys got to get down here and see Derek Queen in person, because this is seemingly a 1-year stop for Mr. Derek Queen, and this is generational type talent.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. There was a lot of talk. Obviously, it could be 2 years, but it's hard to ignore. I mean, I was looking at mock drafts right after he got announced as the freshman of the week for a second time, and late first round. There was, I think, one mock draft I've seen recently that had him as an early second round pick. Couldn't imagine that he'll leave for the NBA if that's kind of his ultimate projection. But I mean, he keeps playing like this. He obviously worked his way into the lottery, and I think just his scoring ability around the rim continues to draw scouts in. I noted on the Inside the Black and Gold Twitter account, but scouts continue to pour into Xfinity weekend or game in, game out for Maryland there. But again, I think as good as Derek Queen has been, I think Jacoby Gillespie has continued to improve that he is as valuable of an addition.
Yeah, Gillespie is absolutely a lot of fun to watch. Hits a three. The timing on just when you need a three from somebody, he just seems to pull up and get it to you, just kind of stemming the tide, being there for the team. The range seems almost unlimited. He'll pull up from anywhere. Rice also is big on big 3-point shooting. My favorite player to watch is actually Gapari. I love that Chris Wilcox type bounce and violence that he has. Absolutely love watching Gapari play. I mean, Derek Queen is amazing to watch, but just my favorite style of basketball is why I like watching Gapari.
Yeah,
It's a really fun team.
yeah, and actually, I think that's exactly it. And I think Abari, you kind of look at their front court. Julian Reese, obviously, I think he's had flashes at times, but in that loss against Purdue on Sunday, kind of disappeared a little bit. Finished with only 5 points, 23 points, excuse me, 5 points in 23 minutes. I believe it was the fourth game this season where he's been held under 10 points. So I think Derek Queen, his excellence really has kind of been able to mask Julian Reese's kind of inconsistencies really to open the season. But when you look at the rotation, Jordan Geronimo, he's been, he was back available against Purdue for the first time in six games. Braden Pierce, suffered a season-ending injury last week, so that's a big
That's
loss, right?
unfortunate.
That's a big loss right there at the 5 behind Queen there. So when you kind of look at Kapari being able to offer that athleticism, obviously, a little bit of that, we've seen a little bit of shooting, but obviously doing a lot of his damage inside the paint,
Yeah,
and
about
obviously with
3 feet above the rim.
yeah, I was gonna say the high flying dunks. I mean, it was at one point it was like every game was a new poster dunk. So I think that Willard's kind of talked about it, but getting him enough time to get more and get comfortable, get in the flow of things is you can kind of tell the last couple of games. I believe he's played at least 10 minutes in 4 of the last 5 games. So him just kind of getting comfortable out there, you can kind of tell that it's kind of led to the increased efficiency and helped fill a big void in that front court.
Yeah, and inconsistency is the right word with Julian Reese, because I think he is playing his best basketball at times that we've seen. The free throw shooting's better. The fouls are a little bit down. And then there's been moments where he's kind of taken over a game. But again, it's just like this. There was a moment in, I believe it was the OSU game where he got like this Rodman-esque just rebound over everyone and went up for a dunk and just threw it off the back iron just into the sky. And I'm just like, that was like that moment. That's that highlight film for the rest of the season. Like right there ends the game. And it's just like, there's been things like that just over and over seemingly where it's just little differences in a game of an inch just seems to change your whole outlook. But I think, it's early. Hopefully he'll put it together. He's definitely being depended on in a very different way than he has been in the past with Derek Queen there. So it's all working out for the best. I mean, we're already seeing more minutes with them together than we thought we would.
Yeah, and I think but I think that's fair. I mean, when I think Willard said that at the beginning, caution it. I mean, I think that's just kind of him figuring out, all right, like how does this work? Getting them on the court together, getting them on the floor, just getting that chemistry there. And I think it's just building on that chemistry. I think really the issue is right now. I don't know that I see defensively many issues with what Reese or Queen are doing. It's offensively, it's getting Reese to kind of be able to play with Queen, play off him a little bit. I think there's opportunities, like we said. Queen. I mean, I've said it before on the show, but watch him in high school. You could always tell that he had the smooth shooting touch, and he could shoot it from three. Whether he was
hit his first
doing
one
it,
from Purdue.
yeah, and you could tell. I mean, whether he was doing it, it's a different story. But you could kind of tell. But obviously, just with Jacoby Gillespie kind of being, that all around guard that you could see, outside scoring, inside, being able to get other guys involved. You can kind of see how you get Queen, Gillespie, Reese, all involved, complement each other in the pick and roll game a little bit. But again, I think kind of with Maryland, like you said, it is still plenty early. The issue for Maryland, frankly, is obviously get a chance to beat Ohio State and convincingly at home. But I think the biggest thing that maybe the Purdue loss highlights is, still don't know if Maryland can win on the road. That has been obviously Purdue is a very, very tough place to play. And that historically speaking, I think they've 36 out of the last 40. They've won at 36 out of the last 40 at home. But Maryland has historically struggled outside of Xfinity Center under Willard. So I think that would have been something that would have been nice for Maryland. Obviously, you get a chance to get a little bit of a break, play St. Francis next week, and then I got Syracuse on a neutral court. But I think that the eye test is kind of showing a lot to like right now.
Also, there was an 8 foot tall Asian guy that was a big part of why they didn't lose at home all that time. So I think that
they had
stat's a little different now.
they had like 6 years of 7-3, 7-4 guys. So this is a welcome
everyone but
development.
Edie could hit the three too. Remember those years? So I can't remember what his name was, but he was like 7'3" and shot the three like nobody's business.
Yeah, Isaac Haas.
Yes, he was very frustrating.
Yeah, no, they all were frustrating. They were all frustrating. There's no doubt. But yeah, like you said, I think there's
a different team.
But again, I think the Ohio State win, I think that was exactly what you wanted to see, but a chance to kind of build on that on the road. Again, Maryland really until the last couple of minutes, no team led by more than 5, so they were in it throughout.
Either team could have won that game for sure.
Yeah. And I think, another kind of welcome addition for Maryland really this year is what frankly everyone wanted to see more of from last year, being able to shoot the three a little bit better, shooting 34% as a
So much
team.
better.
But getting guys like Rodney Rice, Jacoby Gillespie, obviously Derek Queen shows that it's in his arsenal, and Selton Miguel has been able to get a little bit more comfortable the last couple of games, and obviously he's been able to step in from three as well. So being able to stretch for a little bit is definitely helped guys like Queen.
Yeah, Saul Miguel is also fun to watch when he gets going. He seems to be a very streaky player. When he's a hot hand, you feed him. But other times, I'm like, oh, let's let somebody else have the ball, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's another, like I said, that's if you just had to describe this team, it's just fun because you don't know where the points are coming from, how they're coming. It's a very balanced squad, and hopefully they just continue to grow together. Yeah, we've left two on the table now, but both were very winnable games, and
Yeah, I mean,
the
both
season
top
really
10.
hasn't started till January.
Yeah, they're both top 10 teams at the end of the day. As of now, big thing for Maryland is that they passed the eye test right now, but you kind of look at just the NCAA resume, and I think the eye test shows that this is a tournament team. This is a team that has a chance, and I think even some of the national analysts, Jeff Goodman, kind of noted, John Rothstein both noted, this is a team that playing with some mojo right now. But getting a chance to win one at Purdue, slipping late against Marquette. Obviously, both of those are two top 10 teams, but they would have been a chance to really add a signature win on their resume. And, I think the only downside through this first, month and change, or the opening stretch of the season so far, is that Maryland might not have a signature win really through this stretch of play. Obviously, you got the Villanova win, you got hell of a comeback, second half comeback to pull out that 1 point win, and you got Syracuse next week. But the light doesn't look too bright for either of those two teams this year. So you're putting a lot of stress on your conference play results. So I think that's something to kind of keep an eye on through the rest of the way. But again, like you said, the eye test. This team's a fun team to watch. A lot of these guys, balanced scoring effort. A lot of what we needed to see and wanted to see from last offseason, we've been able to see through these first 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, out of conference schedule, there was only one shot. Like, nobody really lined up to be a great team to play out of conference except for them. So you had one chance to make a splash, and that's putting a lot on that one game. Unfortunately, we came up just short, but again, showed the competitiveness. We're tight until the end. This could very easily be an undefeated squad. We could probably also have 4 losses. So, you can look at it however way you want to look. But for right now, I'm a healing football fan, so I'm going to look at this as we could be undefeated right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, 8-2, had a chance if you pulled it out. I think it would have been one of the best starts in Maryland in recent memory. But again, I think this has really been shaping up so far. I mean, it's putting the early pieces together in what could be a bounce back year for Maryland. Obviously, I think everyone has that second weekend aspirations at a minimum. But again, you look at Gillespie, he's been able to really seamlessly kind of pick up this offense. And, you kind of wondered in some of those Q4 games whether it would kind of translate to the bigger competition. And so far, he's kind of been able to live up to it. So, again, lots to like with the squad.
Yeah, if Gillespie and your front court stay healthy, I think this squad goes a long way. So luckily it's basketball, not football, so we got a better chance of that happening.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting. And like you said, they'll kick off the new year. They'll kick it off with that West Coast swing at Washington, at Oregon. So
just no more detached retinas, guys. Just we're done with that. That's what's a one in a decade option at Maryland.
Yeah, we'll move on from that for sure. But yeah, like you said, we'll see how they bounce back in the Xfinity Center next week against St. Francis, and then they will hit the Barclays Center for a matchup against the Orange.
Yeah, well, that'll be a fun one to watch. It's always good. I was thinking the other day, maybe I need to, now that SMU was in the ACC championship game, we beat them a couple years ago in football, so I'm going to have to add them to the ACC stats of how well Maryland's done against the ACC. So we're just going to add them in since it went our way. If it didn't go our way, I would have said they weren't an ACC team. Like, let's be honest. But since we beat them, we'll just put them in there.
I'll take it. I can't. Hard to argue with that logic.
All right, guys. Well, that was another episode of Shell and Tell. Things are looking up ever since that Penn State loss ended. It's been all sunshine and roses around here, really. So let's Let's hope this basketball team really gives us something fun to watch through the winter, and that Locks, all flush with cash, can help us through the portal really make that spring game exciting. Till next time, guys, here's to wishing all is well under the shell.